One of the things that I've noticed is there's been this negative reaction to not fully implementing ITIL. However, I think there's lots of reasons why you may not implement ITIL. And these are reasons, not excuses, good reasons. First of all, cost. Yeah, whether you like it or not, implementing ITIL is going to cost money. If nothing else, it's going to cost time of people doing it. And in today's climate, we just don't have the cash we might have had 2 or 3 years ago. We may want to do it, we may like to do it, we may plan to do it, but at the moment we don't have the money to do it. So if we're limited by cost, what can we do to make sure that we get the best for the money we have right now? One of the things you hear about ITIL is it's all about the customer. Get the customer involved. Or what about if the customer says, I don't want to get involved, go away, I'm not interested. You do your job, I do mine, I'm not interested. That happens more than you think. You know, ironically, if you've got a very, very happy customer and you go to that customer and say, I'm going to change things, the first reaction is, no, don't change it, I'm happy. You go to the unhappy customer and say, I'm going to change things, the reaction is, yeah, and about time, and I'll tell you 30 things you're not good at. So no customer support may be a reason that you can't go right down the full line, because for some of the processes, particularly service management pieces, you do need feedback and interaction with the customer. And if they won't do it, there's not much you can do except the best you can, which isn't a deliverable. You may have limitations based on another project like ISO 20000. So if you're aiming at ISO 20000, you do not need to implement all of the 30 processes. So maybe if you've raised the money for an ISO project or been told to deliver an ISO project, you're limited to the ISO project. Once you've done that, you may have to look at that as a phase 1 and say, we've got ISO, what about all these other processes? They're kind of like a phase 2. Can we do those as well? But the deliverable is an ISO. You may have time constraints. You know, the senior management may have said, yeah, we love the idea of ITIL, but you've only got 2 years to do it. There's no way you can do the whole thing in 2 years. So you may have to cherry pick the right things to do a slightly lesser job, but the best job you can do, as close to fit to purpose as you can do. One of the things I noticed when I started working on this book and looking at all the processes and all the management functions and so on, is they will be owned by a variety of different managers within IT. So how do I, if I'm IT service management manager, convince somebody in charge of contingency planning, which is another department, that they should be involved in ITIL? They may just say, not interested, we've got our own best practice, go away. Financial management may say the same, go away, we're not interested. It just may be you can't implement them all because you don't own them all. And ownership is a key part of any kind of project. Maybe it's just a case of running out of steam. You started the ITIL project with V3 and implementation, you got very excited, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. Then what happens? You start running into all sorts of problems and issues, it starts slowing down, it starts running out of steam. You know, it's not a good reason why ITIL may not be implemented, but you know, enthusiasm and drive is very important to any project and any activity. Some people just scratch their head and just say, oh, look, 30 processes. This is too complex. I don't know where to start. It's too frightening. I don't want to do this. How can I do this? And that's another reason. If it's very, very complex, you will not implement the whole thing. You'll just take the bits that look good and pick them out and do them. That just isn't good. But that's the only way we can do it. You know, another one we get a lot is, I've already implemented V2. It took me ages to implement V2. I convinced my boss that it was the best thing ever. Now what's happening, I'm going to go to my boss and say, you remember that V2? Actually, it wasn't the best thing ever. I've got a new one here called V3, which is the better of the best things. It just doesn't make sense. A lot of managers will push back and say, you've had your money, you've done your job, you're not getting any more. And it may clash with other business initiatives. For example, one of the trends in business right now is lean business. Now, lean is not thin as in dietary, but lean as in the engineering term. Maximizing value, maximizing performance, minimizing costs. Your company may already be working on a business initiative like that, in which case you may be so tied up with that, you can't get involved in a full ITIL. So, you know, there's lots of reasons, and I think they are. Cost, no customer support, limitations because of something like ISO 20000, don't have the time constraints, don't have the ownership of enough of the processes to implement the whole thing. The project's running out of steam because we really didn't plan it, we didn't put it together properly. It's too complex, it frightens me, it just scares me. I don't like looking at all this, too much there. I've already implemented V2 and my boss says to me, you're happy that you got the money you wanted for V2, go away, you're not getting any more. And maybe it clashes with business initiatives. I'm having to work towards something like lean business. So there are reasons we won't do it. If you have some of those reasons, that's where the book and the workshop wins. We'll tell you how to make sure to do the best with ITIL as you can by following those reasons and keeping those in mind as we go through the book and the workshop.